Hello there and welcome to the CGTN Facebook Live. My name is Dinah Matengo here in Marrakesh, Morocco, where at least 64 countries have formally adopted the Global Compact for Safe and Orderly Migration. As you know, migration is quite a teething problem in North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa and the world at large. And earlier today in his opening remarks, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres noted that the migration issue has been talked about and it has been a lengthy negotiation process. In 2017, the New York Assembly. And just to go straight to the point, with me here in set is the Director General of the Ministry of Africa Integration of Ivorians, Dr. Issiaka Konate, who will just tell us more about what you need to know about the Global Compact Summit for Migration. Thank you so much, Konate, for joining us. Maybe if you could start by telling us, what does it mean? What does the Compact mean to you?
Start thinking about a common approach on migration and see how we can best deal with migration issues, respecting human rights. And for me, it's something basic that we need to understand, that migrants' rights is basically human right. You want to respect human right, you respect migrant right. Migrants are human beings. And for me, the pact give us the opportunity to show the world that somehow we can unite on something common around 23 objectives and then take human being as a whole.
The statistics of migrants are quite dire. We have at least 258 million migrants globally. That's like 3.4% of the world's population. Do you think this global compact, as much as it's a non-binding agreement, will it actually assist this migrant issue?
I think it will, because even if it's not legally binding, at the end of the day, the world has decided that there need to be a common approach on migration. So 258 million lives outside of their home countries. It means that migration is here to stay. People would always move, and it's part of human right. Today is the 70th anniversary of a Declaration on Human Rights, and this declaration says on Article 13 and 14 that people would leave if they have fear for their life, they are persecuted, they might leave the country. If they have problem with environment, they might leave the country, and they can simply just leave the country because they want to see what is happening in other places. So we have now a common approach, something that we know if we respect, we can save lives, we can save human dignity. It's no point the whole world complaining about slavery in Libya if we can't get together and agree on only 23 basic objectives, which is linked to human rights. To me, it's the beginning of a new era for migration. It doesn't mean that we are saying every single person can go anywhere he likes illegally and he would always be tolerated. It is saying that let's give the world a path. Let's try to find something which would allow us to think properly about migration and propose something decent to, millions and millions of children and women who have been abused on the road to several countries. And today, I think it's the right time. And it's the 70th anniversary of a Human Rights Declaration. So this is the right time for the whole world to agree on something so important.
We also note it's of quite concern that at least 10 countries have backed out. This is despite a negotiation that took almost 18 months. Others are still not sure whether they want to sign the accord or not. And some argue that this summit, this compact, is a threat to the national sovereignty of certain countries. Do you agree?
Well, I don't, because it's clearly written that countries have the right to decide what they want to do in terms of legislation in their own country with regards to migration. Well, I don't understand. I lived in the UK for 18 years, and I was there when I saw 900,000 people from Poland coming to the UK and trying to find jobs. I was there when I've seen so many people from Hungary coming to trying to find a decent job. We're saying today, what is the point of a world saying that what happened in Libya, that black people were being sold there, and now we're giving the world the opportunity so that this would stop, and everyone is saying, no, this is wrong. I don't understand. To me, Migration is here to stay. People would always move. There's nothing we can do. What we need to do is make sure this is done according to certain rules, and this pact will give us the opportunity to have basic rules around migration. And for me, it's important, and people shouldn't worry about that, because I mean, I am from the Ivory Coast. We have, out of 23 million inhabitants in Cote d'Ivoire, we have 26% foreigners. We don't ask for your name or for your ID when you go to the hospital. We are not asking the world to take 26% of foreigners. We're saying that it can happen where people move. And to think about it carefully, for us living in West Africa, we had problems with terrorism we never ever had before. And this comes from the fact that Libya, but for us, a major crisis in Libya. And then the whole problem starts there. And now I can hear the whole world talk many issues, and like people who are moving from their own country, like they're always happy to do so. They are not always happy to do so. People rather stay in their home country. And I'm from Cote d'Ivoire. Like I say, we have 26% foreigners, and they contribute to our for about 18% of our GDP. And I mean, I'm very proud of what they've done. Today, my country is the first grower of cocoa in the world. About 40, more than 40% of the world production of cocoa. It's very important. And in the cashew nuts as well, we are number one in the world. We can only reach these results when a whole country, when people feel they're part of your country and they start working. And furthermore, it is clearly says that I mean, migrants spend 80% of their earnings in the country where they live. Yeah, not even remittances. I mean, when you live in a country as a migrant, 85% of your earnings are spent in the country where you live. So it's beneficial to the country of destination. And then also through remittances, it's like 3 times the money people are sending, giving Africa for health aid is 3 times that amount. So we need to make sure we organize migration that is done respecting certain basic rules, that we can save lives. We can't just say we're going to sit here and look at people dying and dying all over again. I mean, Secretary General was saying today that's more than 60,000 people who have died through the danger of taking, very compromising routes and trying to leave their own country. And then maybe we need to work more about stability in countries of origin. Maybe we need to help more in transit countries and also countries of destination. And I think that I'm not worried about the pack. I'm from Cote d'Ivoire, and I think we have something to teach the world. We're taking 26% foreigners. We can talk.
But most of the migrants have previously argued that they normally leave their countries following poverty, a lack of education. So what do you think African countries need to do so that they ensure these people don't leave their countries and go to other countries, especially in Europe, where some of them end up dying? As you just said, 60,000 ever since 2000 have died on their journey to Europe. This is quite a huge number. So what do you think needs to be done by the African countries to ensure that these people stay in their countries?
Okay. First of all, I don't see the problem as saying to people you need to stay in your country. I see the problem as saying if you want to move, make sure you respect the rules and laws of the country of origin, the country of transit, and country of destination. And then let me put this to you. In Cote d'Ivoire, we brought back 4,927 people from Libya. After those 4,927, we did a migrant profiling. We asked people, why are you leaving the country? And after 2,000 people we interviewed, 85% had a job. So in Cote d'Ivoire, it's not linked to the lack of job. There is something which they call, in French they will call it le mieux-être là. I'm looking for something better. And this is a human approach to the world. Every single human, wherever they are from, they look at themselves, they say, can I improve my condition? And I say to people that social media, Facebook, what is done is brought the world closer together. It's giving you the impression, whether you live in Kenya, you live in Cote d'Ivoire, or you live in the US, when you get up in the morning as a young person, they aspire to exactly the same thing. That's the same thing they look for. They look for freedom. They look for money to buy certain thing. They look for and anything an American will look for. It's the same an African will look for. And this is also Facebook, and it's brought the world together. So I think we need to invest more on young people. We need to be very careful about how we are building cities in Africa so that people always live in decent condition. We need to make sure that people can vocate. French-speaking countries, like the system has divided the country as you need to go to uni, you need to have this degree before you are this. No, maybe there is a shortcut. Maybe you need to have vocational training and train properly towards areas where we can see there are and I think we need to keep working that. We also need to do something. In West Africa, we have a free movement area. So it means that 357 million people out of ECOWAS can freely move to another ECOWAS country. But we don't have the same with Eastern African countries. I need a visa to go to Kenya. Maybe Africa needs to stand up and say to itself, what is the best thing to do? Should we not come out of all these small arrangements and then see if we can find a bigger area for Africans to be able to move freely, that you can decide today that you want to go to Cote d'Ivoire and not having the burden of needing a visa because you are an African? Obviously, maybe we need decent also documentation, but we need to work on that as countries. But I think I've seen the social commissioner of African Union here, and I had the opportunity to talk to her, and I think the AU is also working on that. Yes, we don't have enough money to do that, but I'm sure countries can look and say, let's look at the visa issue. Can we allow our population to move freely in Africa? This is our continent. Let's do that.
Just back to the Global Compact, some say actually the countries that have withdrawn their status say that it's only legal. It only talks about the legal aspects. It does not talk about the humanitarian aid. For example, how these migrants live, the security challenges in where they are living. For example, here in Morocco, there have been claims of European Union harassment of the police. So does this compact talk about the humanitarian aid of these migrants?
Yes, of course it will, because I mean, if you look at the 23 objectives, he always say that we need to make sure that at each step of a migration route, the migrant is somehow protected, that we avoid his life being exposed. I mean, if we want to also destroy the parallel economy that was created by smugglers, maybe we need to also to bind together. In West Africa, we have an issue with so many young girls traveling to some countries and work as in some countries, and we realize that in Ivory Coast, when we put something in place at the airport to avoid that this issue, that they kept doing the same thing, what we've seen is the same people would go to another African country and use the same route as the one we prevent them from doing so from Ivory Coast. So it means that we need to talk more and more together. And I don't think it's by withdrawing from the pact that we do the world a favor. Like I said, you know, I was in the UK. I've seen so many people coming to live in the UK. At the moment, what I was talking to some people from Italy, some university teacher from Italy last week, and they were telling me it's more than 85,000 young Italians with degrees who are leaving the country. So it can happen to anyone. People can look somewhere else and look at the world today. I mean, are we saying that in this world, Kenyan will stay in Kenya, African Ivory Coast, Ivorians will stay in Ivory Coast, French people will stay in France, and then Canadian will stay in Canada, the American will stay in America? Can we build a world like that? I said no. So let's think about it. Let's think about what can bring us together rather than what is keeping us apart.
So what next after, now that 164 countries have actually adopted this global compact for migration? So what next?
Well, next is also working with other countries who have clearly said that they are not interested, and reassure them that the end of the world, the end of the day, the future of humanity is this: what we owe to children and our generation to come is a basic understanding that human being can move, and that the world has
in Ivory Coast. And basically he was just saying that this global compact is the way to go, especially for the African countries, North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa. And as 164 countries have signed it, we have 10 countries that have backed out. This is US, Austria, Italy, Hungary, Slovakia, and 6 countries are still in negotiation. This is countries such as Bulgaria, Estonia. And basically he says that this global compact for migration is the way to go. I have been your reporter, Dinah Matengo, here in Marrakesh, Morocco. Thank you.
Thank you. You take care.
Sorry for keeping you waiting.
No, it's okay.
Okay,
it's okay.
thank you.
Thank you.